All right, was just waiting for the record sound. Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. I wanted to thank all of our customers for joining us today here as well. I'll quickly introduce myself. I think some of you may know me, but in case we haven't spoken, my name is Shoaib. I actually manage our small business team here nationally for CDW Canada. We are the largest sales team at CDW Canada. Obviously, with Canada being such a small business focused country, we are more than happy to help you out across the nation. We have team members, and many of you have account managers that service you all across the country as well. So again, looking forward to bringing those best practices and helping you out. For today, very happy and very excited to have this webinar in partnership with Ruckus. Ruckus is a top partner of ours in the small business space, working with organizations that are looking to get the right networking needs for their business today, and that can help them grow. So I'll get moving on to a little bit just about CDW and who we are. As I said, I know many of you are working with our account managers today already currently, but just to give you a bit of an idea, CDW is the largest IT solutions provider in Canada. We are the largest VAR, as well as in North America as well. As I said, we have that reach, coast to coast, across the board, as well as international reach as well. So just to go through this really quickly, CDW, of course, was founded in 1984, but the main points that we want to focus on are we expanded in 2015 through acquiring the UK-based Kelway. We expanded into Europe, the European market as well. And then in 2019, one of the most exciting parts that I've been involved with is in 2019, we acquired Scalar Decisions, one of the largest MSPs in Canada, and ended up bringing that book, that entire book and that entire technical bench to CDW. So that allowed us to offer a lot of services directly that we would have had to rely on partners for. So very, very excited as we continue to grow and as we continue to bring our best forward to our customers. Very, very excited to bring all the new tools and the new partnerships that we require along the way. And again, just to go over the international expansion a little bit, again, from CDW, from a customer perspective, we help out all across the world. Again, on the Canadian side, my team, the small business team, was founded at the end of 2016, early 2017. So we've been around for about the past 5 years. And really where that story happened, why that happened, was because we saw the need that we had so many, large customers, and then we had a lot of, very active small business customers that were consistently coming back to us, that were consistently looking for that help to kind of grow to that next level. And, we decided that this was definitely a segment that we want to focus in and that we wanted help develop as well. So my team, again, you all have your account managers, all of our customers that are joining today, you all have your account managers, but my team is the largest team here at CDW in terms of headcount, just because at CDW Canada, in terms of headcount, just because Canada is such a small business focused country. So again, looking forward to bringing some of our best practices forward, helping you with your business as you look to grow and as you look to hit that next level as well, and to provide that best customer service that we know we can provide. So with that being said, that's a little bit about us at the CDW side. I want to quickly introduce and welcome Kyle Mills, who is the Inside Sales Manager at Ruckus, as well as Sean Brown, who is the Territory Account Manager at Ruckus as well. We're more than happy to have Ruckus on the line with us today and to talk a little bit about some of their new solutions and exactly what they can bring to the table with their Unleashed portfolio for all of our small business customers. So Kyle and Sean, I'm going to pass the mic over to you.
Definitely, and thank you, Shreve. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys taking time to join and kind of listen to us talk about Unleashed today. I appreciate CDW for kind of hosting this for us. Again, us the opportunity to kind of address this as well. So yeah, like Shreve said, my name is Kyle Mills, guys. I am the Inside Sales Manager for Ruckus. I cover Canada coast to coast. So, moving forward, if Ruckus is ever in the conversation, please feel free to reach out to me, as well as Sean Brown and Sonny Gupta, who are on the call. Sean is kind of feet on the ground, the territory account manager. in Ontario, and Sunny would be our sales engineer for the Central Canada region. So if you go on to the next slide, please. Thanks. So yeah, just a quick agenda of kind of what we're going to be talking about today, guys. Briefly, I'm going to kind of dive into the Ruckus introduction. Who is Ruckus? Kind of go through a little bit of our history as well. Kind of talk about where we came from and where we're at now. We're going to briefly, obviously, go over our product portfolio as well from a high level. We're going to kind of go from there, talk about Wi-Fi 6 and kind of why that's important too. And then finally, we'll kind of dive into the Unleashed overview, which is kind of what we're mainly here to talk about today. And at the end, we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions throughout, add them into the chat. We'll probably either address them towards the end, whether it's myself, Sean, or Sunny. So you go on to the next slide, please, sir. Thank you. Awesome. So I want to start the slide kind of with start the presentation with this slide, guys. Just to kind of inform Ruckus is a market leader, right? If you're familiar with the networking industry, the wireless networking industry, you know that Ruckus may not be, the market leader, but it's important to distinguish that, we are a market leader, right? And we are a market leader in a few distinct categories. The three kind of top ones where we are, or we do kind of, succeed, are going to be the MDU space, carrier, and hospitality, right? What does this mean and why is it important? We're market leaders where density matters, right? For example, and I'll kind of address this a little later on as well. Companies like Google Link, they utilize this worldwide in a lot of their citywide Wi-Fi deployments, right? Marriott, one of the largest hospitality entities, has standardized on Ruckus. But like I said, I'll kind of go deeper into that here in a few slides. So if you could transition, please, sir. Thank you. Beautiful. So this slide here, guys, it's just, I'll briefly talk about our history, kind of where we came from, where we're at today. Talking about, the beginning before Ruckus was even really Ruckus. We were founded in 2004, right? We provided IPTV units for multi-dwelling, multi-MDUs. And what we kind of realized was that, wireless network companies at that time were not able to provide the quality of video streaming for multiple users at the same time like we could, right? So we kind of made our way into the wireless network space where we introduced beamflex technology. That's kind of our bread and butter technology built on the standard of beamforming, if you're familiar with that. But we'll kind of address that and why it's important a little later on as well. So fast forward 5 years, business is booming, it's working. We finally break the top 500 list, which was a huge milestone. Fast forward to 2011. This is kind of where we started bringing on some of the world's largest carriers, right? Just continuously expanding, our business. Fast forward to 2015 is when we acquired CloudPath. This was an important milestone as well, just because this was our first vendor agnostic tool, right? It didn't matter whether a customer or a company was utilizing a Cisco switching, HP Aruba, or Ruckus access points, right? We had a tool now that allowed the secure onboarding of all these devices. It's a ton of tools in one, and not a lot of competitors are able to do what we can with CloudPath. Fast forward an additional year, we were acquired by Brocade. So if you're familiar with Brocade, they have the ICX switches. This was a important milestone as well, just because we had our Ruckus access point technology, and now we were able to pair that with the wired ICX switching portfolio as well. 2 years later, we were acquired by Aris. This was when we introduced kind of our IoT suite, private LTE, CBRS. We added those to the portfolio as well. A year later and into the present, we were joined the CommScope family, right? This was probably, in my opinion, would probably be the biggest acquisition or expansion here, because now looking at CommScope Ruckus under one family, under one name, whatever you need for your network, whether it's us providing, copper and fiber wiring all the way to our ICX switches and our Ruckus APs, anything that you need to operate your network, no matter where you are, we can provide. So with that, if you could transition to the next slide, please, sir. Okay. So just some stats here, guys, to kind of build off of what I stated in the previous slides here. I already addressed Google Link, right? Google is building out citywide Wi-Fi networks all over the world, whether it's New York, UK, Rio de Janeiro. They are all exclusively Ruckus, right? I mentioned hospitality in one of the previous slides as well. Where Marriott is one of the numerous top tier global hotel brands that uses Ruckus in 3,700 plus hotels across 30 different plus countries. So worldwide in hospitality and citywide Wi-Fi as well. One of the more fun stats I like to kind of talk about here is that, McDonald's has standardized on Ruckus as well, right? So anywhere in the world you go, you walk into a McDonald's, Ruckus is providing the hardware, providing that network for them. The only exception to this, McDonald's kind of rule here is we are not in Canada. We're everywhere else but Canada. So if you step into a McDonald's in Canada, ask them what's going on. Tell them to buy some Ruckus. And then moving on to the federal government, right? Second largest network in the world. Some would say the most important network in the world. Specifically the U.S. Navy. We are providing the switching and APs to thousands of federal buildings, right? Allowing over 500,000 users to do their job securely. The last one, guys, is the Maracana Stadium in Rio, home of the Rio Games. They're exclusively Ruckus as well. If you were a basketball fan, I am personally located in Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the Hornets. And we have they're exclusively Ruckus as well. So I think that's a pretty cool point to bring up. And go on to the next slide. Thank you, sir. So I just want to dive quickly into our portfolio, guys. This is a very condensed, high-level overview of what we offer. I'm going to start from the bottom, where you can find the access points, right? That's kind of where Ruckus started. That's what we're known for, is our wireless gear. We do have one of the largest varieties or vast portfolios for access points. We offer outdoor APs, as you can see, the T-Series right there, indoor APs, as well as hospitality or specialty APs and CBRS wireless as well. When talking about our switches, I won't go too deep into the switching portfolio here. We offer, like I said, a wide variety of switches as well at our access level with the 7150 all the way up to our core switches of the ICX 7850. The real differentiator here between us and our competitors, guys, is going to be the scalability, right? So where most of our competitors are going to utilize or kind of require or demand a chassis, which is a huge upfront cost, Ruckus does not do, right? Instead, we stack our APs. You can have up to 12 in one stack. So if scalability is something that is important to you guys, kind of Ruckus has you covered on that end. Moving on to controllers and management. So we have, like I said, a variety of management tools as well. We are going to dive into Unleashed a little bit, but just to go over briefly, if you are a company or an individual who likes to have that piece of hardware, we have the options with the Smart Zone or Zone Director. Hosted on-prem, we do have virtualized versions of those appliances as well with the virtual Smart Zone. If you're a company that has a few locations and you like to kind of manage your network or your environment remotely, cloud may be a fantastic option for you. And then finally, like I said, Unleashed, which is actually a controller-less management platform. But we'll dive into that a little bit here in a second. So last thing, guys, I kind of want to touch on is software. I'm only going to really kind of briefly talk about analytics and CloudPath. Okay, so we'll start with CloudPath. So CloudPath is basically, like I mentioned early 2015 acquired CloudPath. Basically, it's an onboarding tool. It is multiple tools in one. It basically provides increased security for your network, devices, users, and your data. Streamlines network onboarding for BYOD users. Gives you the power to define and manage policies for role-based access, right? So it's a ton of things in one. When it comes to analytics, which is a separate kind of software here, just some of the benefits there. It's basically a software to better manage or the health of your environment, I guess you could say, right? It's like having an additional IT individual on your staff, right? Some of the benefits: it provides comprehensive visibility into your network operations, accelerates network and client troubleshooting, identifies, prioritizes, and recommends remediation steps for service issues, right? So two great tools we like to talk about when kind of discussing software. And with that being said, guys, I am going to flip over to the next slide and pass this off for a little bit more of a technical input from Sean Brown and Sunny Gupta.
Thanks for that, Kyle. Just before we do that, I did see some questions come into the chat here as well. So just wanted to let everyone know that we'll get to the questions just at the end over here after the presentation, and we'll make sure to address all of those as well. So keep them coming in the chat, and we're going to make sure to get to all of those. Thank you.
Okay, so essentially what we're going to do here, guys, we're just going to bring you into the future. I'm sure that everybody's aware of what Wi-Fi 6 is, where we're at today. What I'm going to talk about right now is some of the differences of Wi-Fi 6 versus everything that came before, and how it can actually help you to provide, or help us to provide, far better connectivity and throughput no matter where you are in the world. A lot of what Wi-Fi 6 has actually done for us is provided far better outdoor reliability, right? We have the ability with Wi-Fi 6 and with 5, in order to actually provide faster throughputs on the streets than some people are actually getting inside their buildings. You're getting higher speeds. We're able to provide far better coverage. We're able to increase your capacity and your throughput by up to 4 times. Where we're at an AP in the past, and still some of our competitors falter a little bit. We're able to have hundreds of users on a single AP. Why it's important, and why it's definitely important for smaller business, is that for any environment, no matter what it is, you're going to require far less APs in order to provide a complete solution. I saw in the chat that somebody had mentioned Meraki, right? The biggest difference is everyone's going to be in line. All of our pricing, AP for AP, switch for switch, is very, very similar. Where we're actually going to win is that total cost, because you're not going to require nearly as many APs to get the full density and the full coverage solution that you require in order to run your business and to manage the throughput for your guests. The other thing that Wi-Fi 6 has actually brought, and we've brought to the table more than anybody else, is the ability to actually manage all different IoT solutions on the exact same AP that you're using to provide Wi-Fi. What do I mean by an IoT solution? I mean smart cameras, smart doors, door locks, heat sensors, anything that you have that provides either a Bluetooth or a Zigbee or Sigfox or LoRa. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter what the technology is. Our APs are actually able to handle up to 3 different flavors within a single unit. The other thing that Wi-Fi 6 is allowed for is reduced power consumption, right? It doesn't require as much power to provide that throughput as it did with the APs that came before it. And the last piece is, because of a technology called multi-user MIMO, is actually the ability to have multiple users utilizing the same AP at the same time, providing more throughput and getting more users on and off faster. Next slide, please. And Sunny, you want to take the next one.
So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the specific technologies around Wi-Fi 6 that really helps support those, those improvements that Sean talked about. And the number one, the biggest one is definitely OFDMA. That's orthogonal frequency division multiple access. And this is the same technology that's used today in cellular networks. Essentially, the way that Wi-Fi 5 and the previous versions of Wi-Fi worked is that you'd have a chunk of spectrum, so 20 megahertz of radio frequency or spectrum, and a user is going to use that whole 20 megahertz of spectrum, regardless of whether they're sending an email or watching YouTube or anything else. And what OFDMA does is it allows us to break that spectrum down into smaller chunks. Because a lot of the traffic that users do transmit and send and receive is smaller bits of data, it was really inefficient to be using up that whole spectrum for a single kind of transaction in the past. And so now we've got this ability to take a single sort of payload and have multiple devices be able to send 6 megahertz, 8 megahertz, and another 6 at the same time. So 3 users can use that same chunk of frequency. So it's much more efficient. That's the single biggest differentiator between Wi-Fi 6, and that's adding more network capacity. So the multi-user MIMO is another piece where you've got multiple antennas and multiple devices that can all kind of talk at the same time. Whereas because Wi-Fi is a shared medium, it really is one device can talk at a time. And we've been able to break that up now to say, we can have multiple devices talking on different antennas at the same time to give you both downlink improvements and uplink, which is new to Wi-Fi 6. And the power efficiencies really come from having the ability to have a bit more of a traffic cop or a scheduler on that wireless network to be able to understand when a device needs to go to sleep and when it's going to wake up, so that it's so the devices can go to sleep for seconds, minutes, days, potentially even years. Like if you think about a sensor that only needs to send a small amount of data every few minutes or every couple hours, those batteries could potentially last years. So it's a huge improvement when it comes to things like Wi-Fi based IoT. Now the 1024 QAM is pretty straightforward. It's basically, that this is the number of bits you can send in a given moment. So 256 QAM is the Wi-Fi 5 standard, and that's why we're at 4x. So I think that's pretty straightforward. And the last two again are the OFDM symbol is used for outdoor wireless communications, and it helps to make things more reliable. When you think about Wi-Fi and RF, if you're inside a building, you have this, it's both a curse and a blessing, this advantage that you have walls and doors and windows and things that Wi-Fi signals can bounce off of, but they can, help get the signal where it needs to go. Whereas outside, it's got nowhere to bounce, so it's just going to keep on going straight. So this gives better resilience with multipathing in the outside. In outdoor environments. And then finally, when it comes to this something called BSS coloring or base service set coloring, because again, Wi-Fi is the shared medium, you've got two devices that are both talking potentially on the same channel, they will overlap with each other. Just like two people having a conversation at the same time, when one person is speaking, it's really hard for the other person to talk over top of them, and both of them hear each other. So what the BSS coloring actually does is it kind of splits those two devices almost like in their separate rooms. And even though one is talking orange and the other one's talking blue, they're on the same channel. And so devices can then say, well, I'm talking to the blue AP, I'm going to totally ignore what's on orange, and thereby increasing the capacity and spatial reuse of those channels. So that's the enhanced coexistence between existing APs. And yeah, that kind of covers that part. If you have any technical questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And next slide, back to Sean.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the main purpose for this presentation was to actually talk to you about our Unleashed solution. Our Unleashed solution has been custom built and purpose built to handle businesses like your own. The biggest thing to note with Unleashed is a few different things. One, you get the same performance as you do from our best-in-class carrier-grade products, but at an affordable price and built for your network, right? The coolest thing to Unleashed is that it allows you to simply install it through a GUI, and you can actually manage it off of your phone or your website. It doesn't necessarily matter. So if you're going to start with Ruckus and you have 5 to 10 APs, a couple switches, you can manage all those off of one pane of glass. Next slide, please. So the biggest thing to take note of with Unleashed is it actually is fairly scalable. When I say it's scalable, you could actually manage up to 128 APs and up to 2,048 concurrent devices on an Unleashed network. So when I talk about the fact that it is feature rich and it is just best in class, it is, right? It's going to allow you a lot of the same functionality and usability as our carrier networks at a far lower price. And as I talked about earlier, you can manage it on either a browser on any computer or directly from a cell phone or iPad or a Android device. The coolest piece as well is that mobile app is free, and you can manage up to 10 sites either locally or remotely. On to the next slide, please. So there's a whole bunch of functionality within Unleashed. I'm not going to dig into a lot of the specifics, but the biggest things to take note of is if you want to have a full Ruckus network, you could manage both of our ICX switches as well as our APs on a single pane of glass. It allows such features like URL filtering. It does support WPA3, which is the latest and greatest with regards to encryption technology for onboarding. It has added CLI support. So if you actually are that type of person and you want to still be able to log into a switch or an AP remotely, you can do that. And it also allows Google authentication for a login domain. Other things to take note of is the enhanced user experience, right? So it's a zero-touch deployment. It has application recognition enhancements, so you can set priority. You can, set QoS depending on what is most important on your network, right? If you want Netflix to be the thing that everybody can use and has the best throughput, you set it up that way. If voice is important to you, you could set it up so that voice receive QoS, and it's completely up to you. It's a really flexible solution. The other piece to take note of is, you can move on to the next slide, is that you can start with our Unleashed solution, and at any point you can move to any other solution within our entire portfolio just by changing the software. There is never any need to replace any APs or any switches. What I wanted to show you here is what the wired and wireless network management in Unleashed looks like, right? So if you're familiar with some of the other cloud providers, whether it be Meraki or Arrowhive or even Ruckus Cloud, you're going to notice that the look and feel is very similar, right? We've built the Unleashed solution using a lot of the same GUI and a lot of the same interface as our more robust solutions, but we've just pared it down to only have the features that are required for the average business to run day to day. Next slide, please. So as I talked about earlier, the biggest thing to take note of with regards to our solutions is they're robust, they're scalable, you have a lot of choices, right? So you can start today, you might be a small business that has 2 locations today, you only have a couple APs, you got a couple switches, you want to get them on board, you want to be flexible, you want to do it at a good price, you could start with our Unleashed solution. But as you grow, you can either maintain your Unleashed solution, or we can grow with you, right? You can move off at any point to our cloud or virtual smart zone without the requirement of replacing any of that investment that you've already made. You call us, you let us know where you want to go, and we'll help you to get there. On to the next slide, please. So I'm going to ask the obvious question, guys, and you can put it in the chat and we will answer any questions you have. But how's your Wi-Fi working today? So thank you very much for your time today. We're going to open it up right now for Q&A. So fire questions into the chat, and someone from our team will answer them.
Thank you for that, Sean. And I'll just read out the questions that came in during the presentation. Thank you for everyone that did send any questions in. And again, if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. But just first was from Peter Schmidt. How does pricing from Ruckus to Cisco Meraki compare? I do understand that there is a significant overlap on product lines, but also some things that Ruckus does not offer. We'll pass that one over to the Ruckus team, and then Peter, at any point in time, if you want some more context or you want to add anything else to that question, please feel free to go off mute and ask away.
Yeah, so most definitely, at the end of the day, I don't like to talk about cost, and there's a reason for that. We are always going to have a lower total cost of ownership than any of the other grade 1 providers. The reason for it doesn't come down to AP or switch for switch or console for console. What it really comes down to is a total cost of ownership. Kyle kind of alluded to it on some of the first slides. We've specifically targeted difference makers. We specifically made our solutions scalable, and we did it so that we wouldn't have to have this conversation. Where we help you is that for any solution, I don't care whether we're looking at Meraki, Cisco, Extreme, Arrowhive, name the other vendors, I know there's a lot of them. What's going to happen is, because of our BeamFlex technology, because of our patented antennas, we are always going to require at minimum 20 to 30% less access points per deployment. What does that mean, right? You're going to ask that question. I'm going to answer it. What it means is that's less APs, that's less switch ports, that's less switches, that's less power consumption, that's less support, less maintenance, less break fix. When you really look at everything that's involved in adding another AP, that's where we're saving you money and we're saving you time. So let's say you are a facility that requires 15 Meraki APs. That same facility might require 10 Ruckus APs to have the same throughput, to have the same density. So you think about that. Instead of two 12-port switches, now you buy one. Instead of two maintenances, you're buying one. Instead of the 15 APs, you're buying 10. Everything along the line from the the cabling connections, the fiber connections, every single piece of your network, because you're not going to require as many APs, is going to cost you less. The other thing to take a look at, and Kyle mentioned it as well, is our switches, right? So the Meraki question comes up as well, is we don't require a chassis for anything. What Kyle didn't mention, and I will mention, is as you grow, we grow with you. So we have the capability to actually stack up to 12 switches in a single stack. What does that really mean, right? That means you could have more 10, 40, or even 100 gig ports in a single stack than any of our competitors can provide. And as you grow, we can grow with you. What that means is, because of the way we manage our network, we call it a campus fabric, you can have up to 40 switches managed as a single IP as long as they're on the same network within a few miles. I think that's the best answer to the question. Is we're not going to talk about cost, because if you look AP for AP, we're all going to be very, very similar. But if you're willing to have a total cost of ownership discussion, I guarantee you we're going to be less money over time. Are there any other questions?
Thank you for that, Sean. There is another question, also from a different Peter Gottsward. I regularly hang out in a fairly large number of MSP groups, and the general consensus, correct or not, is that Ruckus is 3 times the cost of other options. You've stated your advantage is fewer APs for smaller offices and work from home scenarios that require 1, 2, or 3 APs. That would end up being a significant cost. How do you address this?
Yeah, most definitely. In the MDU space, I mean, it's great that you brought that up. We're the market leader, and it's not even close, right? So general ideas, this has just happened, but TELUS has standardized on Ruckus for MDU across Canada, to the point where they're ordering thousands of APs. The reason why they did this is the same reason as the answer to the question that I just answered: less APs. Right, especially in those big facilities like a university dorm or a long-term care facility, you don't require as many APs, guys. And even cooler than that, we have APs that are specifically designed for those environments, right? We have 2 different wall mount APs, one that even has PoE out. So that's where our IoT discussion really, really comes into play and really starts to hold weight. So if you're going after those customers, you're going after the long-term care facilities, you're going after the university dorms, you're going after the low-income housing, or God, even if you're going after the small motels, where we will really help you out and where we will really save your customers money is that you're going to have the ability to manage multiple flavors of IoT in that environment as well. So you're going to require far less hardware for those providers, and I think that's really important. Sunny can go into the meat if you want me to do it, but when you talk about MDU, start thinking about all the different IoT sensors that you want to utilize today, whether it's a door lock or a camera or smart windows or a smart thermostat. All of that stuff, because we utilize an open API, can be managed through our network. And I think that's an important thing to note, is we really don't cost as much money. Now, there are going to be vendors that are cheaper, right? We don't go to the market to compete with folks like Ubiquiti or D-Link or Linksys or Netgear, right? So if you are looking at a consumer grade AP, we can't compete, right? We're not going to try to compete. It's not a fair game right from the start. But if you're talking about the big players, whether it be Cisco, Aruba, Extreme Networks, we are right in line with everybody else. But thanks for that question, Peter. It's a great one.
Yeah, thank you for that, Peter, and thanks for that, Sean. We actually have one more question that came in from Julian as well. So with this talk about scalability and a claimed lower TCO, most of it seems to be related to managing at scale. I may have misunderstood, but I thought Ruckus Unleashed is targeted to SMBs. Could you talk a little bit about that, Sean?
Yeah, most definitely. The Unleashed solution itself, the questions didn't go to Unleashed. But yes, the Unleashed solution itself is targeted to the SMB. The really cool thing to our Unleashed solution is just how cost effective it is year over year. I won't go over pricing today. That's for CDW and the reps in the field. But at the end of the day, if you actually look at what it costs to maintain an Unleashed network, it is extremely cost effective. I mean, you're talking dollars per month, not hundreds of dollars, right? So, you could manage up to 128 APs off of an Unleashed network, which is essentially controllerless, right? You're not buying a controller, you're not paying for cloud services, you're not paying for licenses. It really is cost effective. I mean, if you want to sit down afterwards with your rep from CDW and someone from my team, we'd be happy to go over a solution like that with you. Peter.
Oh, I was waiting for
Thank
that
you,
question.
Peter. Yeah,
Thank you, Peter.
That is. Listen, guys, I'm sure you're aware of this. I don't need to go into it, but it's bad, right? And it's bad for everybody. You're not gonna. Now, this is where the consumer guys actually have the leg up, right? Is they don't require the exact same chipsets as we do. They don't use the same boards. So in some cases, you might have an easier time getting your switch or an AP from CDW's consumer grade providers, right? I know CDW has a vast variety of different vendors that they work with. My suggestion is if you're in a hurry, if you need something today, you might not have a vendor in mind. Let CDW give you options, right? They might be able to find you something today. For all of us, for all the enterprise players, the average mean time or lead time right now is somewhere between 4 and 6 months. So if there's not an order in the system across all of us, this isn't just a Ruckus thing, you're not going to see your APs for half a year. And this is industry-wide.
And it is industry-wide across the board with all of our tier 1 vendors as well. So just to double down on that from the CDW side. So Peter, if we're dealing with anything like that immediately, let me and your CDW rep know, and we'll try to work with you guys on any immediate needs. But great question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw another question. Sunny, did you want to actually add anything to that, or?
No, I can take the next question.
Oh, perfect. All right, I will leave it to you then.
Yeah, I thought you were going to read it out, but I can read it. So in regards to the switches and APs, do we require licenses? So when it comes to Unleashed, so that's really the big benefit with Unleashed, right? There are really no licenses required. You pretty much buy the hardware, you buy your switch, you buy your access point or access points, and they come with lifetime hardware, limited lifetime warranty. So you're covered from that perspective. There's no licenses required, and that will operate in perpetuity. It'll just run fine. The only additional cost that's associated is the support and maintenance cost, which is pretty minimal. And you kind of need that in order to be able to have that 7x24 phone call to get tech support if and when needed, as well as getting access to kind of lifetime updates of software updates and getting all the latest and greatest. But again, if you start looking at the pricing of it, it's pretty low. And again, if you don't want to pay for the extra support and you don't need to call anyone, there's no additional cost.
Perfect. Thanks, Sunny. And it looks like Julian had another question just to add on to his initial question for the Unleashed portion. So he was just asking, so it's a one-time cost for the APs then and nothing more?
Yeah, I think I kind of answered that question with the last question. So yep, that is correct. Except for the support and maintenance as an optional. And then of course, if you do go to a Ruckus cloud-based solution, there's just the annual cost of the Ruckus cloud subscription, and that covers everything. That covers support and obviously updates because they're updated from the cloud. And you get that cool interface as well that gives you access to monitor and manage things from a phone, from a laptop, from a beach, wherever you want, of course, with simply an internet connection.
Perfect. And I think, Sunny, you addressed this next question with that answer as well, but I do want to address it specifically as well. So just from Peter again, I'll give you an example I have right now. I have a new customer with 8 group houses, all connected with a VPN. So they have 1 or 2 APs at each site. Would the Unleashed system require an annual maintenance fee?
So the maintenance fee does apply in order to, again, get access to support and updates. But if you wish to forego that, you can run it and everything works perfectly fine. I know there are some solutions out there where if you don't pay if you don't pay the subscription fee, then your hardware basically becomes useless. We don't do that. We'll never do that. And the great thing about Unleashed is that it's it'll run. You can even take something from the cloud or running on the smart zone and repurpose it with Unleashed software just by flashing the code, and then repurpose it and use it somewhere else forever, never requiring a license or any kind of costs.
Perfect. And then just for the last one here, Sunny, I think, again, it just really doubles down on this as well. But can you confirm, from Julian, can you confirm the stance for software updates? Is support required?
So it's a bit of a moving target. I know that when Unleashed was initially released and for the last couple of years, it was not required at all. And I believe we're still carrying forward on that. But the consensus is we'd like you to continue paying that small cost. I think it's like, I can't remember. It's somewhere in the range of 10, 20 bucks per AP per year or something like that. So it's pretty minimal, but that helps us to continue developing and making things and improving things on that software as opposed to kind of leaving it stagnant, because ultimately that's what's going to happen with technology, right? If nobody pays for it, it's going to go away. And if you think it's great, and hopefully you'll support it that way, but it's not required currently at this time. You can upgrade without a support contract. We don't enforce that.
Perfect. Thank you, Sunny. With that, I believe we are at the end of any questions. I'll leave it open for another few seconds here if anyone has anything else that they wanted to ask.
I did want to mention that we have if you want to put the first slide up with the contact names, if you can go back to that. And then, we'd be happy if any of you guys want to reach out to us offline to set up a meeting or have a quick call. We'd be happy to oblige.
Perfect. And then, perfect. So while I'm just quickly loading this up as well, too, I did want to quickly call out, we are going to be taking the attendee list today, and we will be doing a random draw for the 5 gift cards that we had, 5 $100 gift cards. Thank you again, all of you, for joining in today. Your account manager will be reaching out to you tomorrow. Your account manager will be reaching out to you tomorrow if you were one of our lucky winners. So really, really looking forward to working with everybody. I hope this was a lot of information. Looks actually, you know what? Before I close and add any closing remarks, it looks like Peter had a question here that we can address. So for MSPs, is Unleashed appropriate, or is cloud Wi-Fi the proper single pane of glass for multiple customers?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Sonny. Either way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's a good question. We are actually really focused on the MSP market, right? We really want to focus on that space and grow that business. So, in order to do that, Unleashed it works fine. We actually do have a solution called Unleashed Multi-Site Manager, which allows you to manage multiple separate Unleashed networks from a single pane of glass. And that works perfectly well as well. But from a technical standpoint and overall cost as well, it is the lowest cost option. But if you move to a cloud solution, you get so much more, and it's actually got built-in multi-tenancy in the cloud. So, and we're also bringing the control and management of the licenses and subscriptions to the MSP partner, as opposed to having it owned by, let's say, an end user or customer. So you can buy, let's say, a 12-month subscription, assign it to customer A for 3 or 4 or 6 months or whatever, and let's say for whatever reason that customer decides not to continue, you don't have to hold on to that license and just be stuck paying the bill. You can kind of pause it and then say, okay, well, a month later, I've got customer B now who's going to take over the license, and the remaining 6 months can be transferred to that customer, because at the end of the day, the MSP owns it. So, to answer your question, the cloud is definitely more appropriate, but it doesn't mean that there aren't situations where Unleashed or Unleashed with Multi-Site Manager might make sense. And it's probably something we can talk about if you're looking at developing, or if you are an MSP and have an MSP practice. We can talk about what makes the most sense for you if you're looking at leveraging the Ruckus solution. I don't know if you have anything to add, Sean.
That pretty much nails it.
Yeah.
So listen, the MSP question is a good one, and quite frankly, I'll be clear with you. MSP for Sunny and I, for our local Ontario team, is our largest vertical. It's where we win more than anybody else. If we get opportunities to bid on MSP, we typically win, and there's reasons for that.
And I will just like to add to that, for the Ruckus team, our team does work with a lot of MSPs across Canada as well. So looking forward to making those connections with anyone. And again, anyone on this call from our customer side, please reach out to your account manager. If you haven't gotten a chance to take the Ruckus team information today, please reach out to your account manager or myself, and we will get you that information. We'll make sure everybody is connected here. But other than that, oh, looks like Peter had another question here. Perfect. Peter, keep them coming. I love it. Is there a migration path from Unleashed multi-site manager to cloud?
Yeah, I mean, not specifically a migration path. It's just built into our solution where you can essentially replace the firmware that's loaded onto the device and then have it connect to cloud. So you'll just need to get the appropriate cloud subscription licenses, and you're pretty much good to go.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. And since there's really no licenses with Unleashed, there's no difference. Like there's no credit or cost to be concerned there.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Thanks
for asking questions.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, we love it. We love the engagement from the customers, and the more interest that you show in this, and the more questions that you have, it's the better for us, because we want to make sure that you have all the information to make an educated decision. Whenever you're making an investment like this, whether it's for one of your customers or for your own business, you need to make an educated decision, and that's why we have the team here, and that's why we do these type of webinars with our customers as well. So I think with that, we have all the questions for today. As I had mentioned, we will be doing a random draw. I will be doing that internally just after with one of our internal teams over here. And then we'll have your account managers reach out. There is going to be, again, we're going to take today's attendees from the customer side, and we'll be doing a random draw, 1 of 5, and 5 different chances to win. And there will be a $100 gift card that your account manager will be reaching out. So hopefully you are all the lucky winners. But if there's no other questions, I just want to take a quick moment to thank again all of our customers that have joined. Really appreciate all of your time today. Really appreciate all the questions, and thank you for being so interactive as well. And then from the Ruckus side as well, thank you for joining us. Always look forward to the partnership, and we're looking forward to sharing the Ruckus message with as many customers as we can.
Thanks so much to CDW for hosting this, and for everyone to attend. And it looks like, Peter, you probably should reach out to us. We have more things to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to start making some of those connections right away, it looks like.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks,
Perfect. Team, thank you so much. Everybody that joined again, thank you. Can't thank you all enough. If there's any questions or anything that comes up, please, again, reach out to your account managers. We're more than happy to make those connections. Thank you, Ruckus, and thank you to all of the CDW customers as well. Thank you all. Have a great day, and in case we don't get a chance to speak, have a great weekend as well.
Thanks, Shred.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.